In this episode, a fruit picker is trapped in an apple tree as two hungry Komodo dragons circle the trunk below. After spending hours stuck in the tree under the blistering sun, he slips and falls directly on top of the two man-eating dragons. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying story of Muhammad Anoir, eaten alive by two Komodo dragons. Komodo dragons are the stuff of nightmares. With a mouth full of sharp, serrated teeth designed to tear flesh from bone, a long forked tongue that can smell prey from 5 miles away, and venom that causes victims to bleed internally to death. They are one of the most feared reptiles on the planet. There are thought to be only 4,000 Komodo dragons left in the wild. They inhabit just 5 Indonesian islands: Komodo, Rinca, Flores, Gili de Sami, and Gili Motang. Renowned as carrion eaters, they devour carcasses and can consume up to 80% of their body weight in one sitting. However, they are also exceptional ambush predators. Typically, they prey on small animals such as invertebrates, birds, reptiles, eggs, and monkeys. Larger dragons hunt wild boar, goats, deer, horses, and even water buffalo. Disturbingly, they have been known to dig up graves and feed on the corpses beneath, which has led locals to bury their dead in clay soils and pile rocks on top to keep the lizards at bay. Their fearsome reputation draws tourists to the Indonesian islands, eager to see the largest and heaviest lizards in the world. In March 2009, 31-year-old Muhammad Anoir set out to pick fruit on the island of Komodo. Nobody knows for sure what happened leading up to the attack, but the following story is believed to be the most likely scenario. It was a warm, sunny day. As Muhammad walked through the groves, his scent was picked up by a pair of Komodo dragons on the prowl. Due to habitat destruction, Komodo dragons have become increasingly problematic for humans, often venturing further in search of food. Amongst the fruit trees, the giant lizards flicked their forked tongues in and out. The chemoreceptors on the roofs of their mouths alerted them to a potential meal several hundred meters away. Silently, they closed in. Their heavy footsteps were muffled by the tall grass, and their heads swayed from side to side. Muhammad was unaware of his impending doom. Conflicting reports suggest Muhammad was either working in the fields as a fruit picker or trespassing in a restricted area of Komodo National Park. According to the park's general manager, Franciscus Harum, Muhammad was a fisherman who had strayed from the beach to search for fruit in a dangerous zone home to a large population of Komodo dragons. Others believe he was simply working to provide for his family. Whatever his reason, Muhammad was about to find himself in a life-threatening situation. He climbed an apple tree, hauling himself up to reach the choicest fruit at the top. As he began descending, he noticed movement on the ground below. At first, it was just a flash of dark green and gray. Then his heart leapt as he realized he was surrounded by not one, but 2 Komodo dragons. Each weighed about 70 kilograms, 150 pounds, and stretched over 2.5 meters, 8.5 feet long. The dragons were not just passing by. They had been drawn by Muhammad's scent and were there for him. One reared up on its hind legs, placing its front claws on the tree trunk. The tree shook under the lizard's weight as it leaned against the trunk, supported by its thick, muscular tail. To Muhammad's relief, the dragon was too heavy to climb. It dropped back to the ground and joined its companion encircling the tree. Muhammad was trapped. He watched as the Komodo dragons lumbered below, occasionally pausing to glance upward. Their forked tongues flicked in and out, sensing the air. He could see their armored, scaly skin and powerful tails. Desperate, he cried out for help, but no one answered. Should he run or wait it out? The blistering heat drained him as sweat poured down his face. His only source of hydration was the apples he had picked. Exhausted and uneasy, he adjusted his grip on the branch, but his sweaty palms slipped. He lost his footing and plummeted to the ground, hitting branches on the way down. The impact knocked the wind out of him, and before he could react, the Komodo dragons pounced. Their serrated teeth tore into his flesh in a frenzied attack. Each dragon's bite could exert enough force to snap a man's leg in two. Muhammad screamed and struggled, but the dragons were relentless. Blood poured from his wounds, and their venom began coursing through his veins, preventing his blood from clotting and causing paralysis. Teresia Tawa, another worker in the area, heard Muhammad's desperate cries and rushed to help. When she arrived, she was horrified by the sight. Blood soaked the ground as Muhammad thrashed and screamed, fighting the lizards with everything he had. Teresia threw stones at the dragons and screamed at them until they scuttled off into the undergrowth. She cradled Muhammad's head in her hands. His body was torn and bleeding profusely. Knowing he needed urgent medical attention, she and others carried him to the shore and placed him in a fisherman's motorboat. They sped across the water to a clinic on the nearby island of Flores. Tragically, Muhammad died from massive blood loss before doctors could save him. This horrifying incident was one of many increasing attacks across the islands. Just a month earlier, a Komodo dragon had climbed a ladder into a park ranger's house and mauled him while he slept. The previous year, 5 tourists were swept onto the island of Rinca after strong currents pushed their boat ashore. Stranded, they spent 5 harrowing days fending off a Komodo dragon until rescuers arrived. In another case, an 8-year-old boy was attacked and killed by a dragon while playing football. The increasing number of encounters is largely attributed to habitat destruction. As more land is cleared for agriculture and housing, Komodo dragons are forced into closer proximity to humans. They are drawn to rural communities by the promise of easy meals, such as domesticated goats and chickens. While humans aren't their typical prey, dragons will attack if they feel threatened or are desperately hungry. Tragically, Muhammad Anoir's encounter with the Komodo dragons was a deadly reminder of the danger these formidable predators pose. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share to help us continue bringing you these intense, real-life stories. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done in Muhammad's situation? Stay tuned for more gripping tales of survival, tragedy, and the wild forces of nature. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, nature is both beautiful and unforgiving.